Alright, this video goes out to the friends, family, loved ones, and memory of Rosemary Dominguez. I wanted to make that very clear, and this is the story of how she unfortunately passed away last year. So I'm going to be telling this factual series of events in hopes that it can bring awareness and also to tell the world a little bit about the girl that I knew and some of the more happier times. Okay, so there are multiple reasons, and all of it is done with 100% respect and dignity. So just wanted to make that clear before I start this off. And this is my third time doing this, so it's a tough video. So, without further ado, I'm going to get into it. So, this takes place in 2020, is where it starts, okay? I get sent to a rehab. Obviously, I'm not exactly on the honor roll running for class president or whatever. So, I'm at a residential, which is where you're not allowed to leave. And I was there during COVID. COVID hit like a week after I got there. So that's a whole video on its own. So I'm there, and I'm there for 3 months. And then I'm there for 6 months for sober living. So when I do the program, I get sent to a sober living that's like across the street and like 3 houses down from the place where I did my treatment. And right across the street from my house is a female sober living house. Now, our program didn't have like a female program, but it had female housing. So if you did like a female rehab somewhere in LA and it like worked with the plan or whatever, you could do the sober living through our program. So, another thing is when you graduate, is what they call it, you still do like group counseling, but you do it in an outpatient setting where you get a schedule and you got to go whatever. Some people got to go from like 10 to 12. Some people go at like, there's like 3 different shifts or whatever. So um, it was like that. And so Rosemary had got to her sober living, which was the house right like 3 doors down from the guy's treatment house. So when she would walk to her class, there's a lot of times where there would be like dudes that would be like smoking a cigarette on the porch or on the side of the house, and like literally the whole house would come out and try to like get at her, like just throwing all this like sloppy game at her. And like I really like felt bad for her, like. And I'm not one of those type of people, so like I wasn't about to like catcall anybody, like, but I just like felt bad that she was just getting harassed by like a whole house full of like, actually more than one house full, because there was fucking 2 houses next to each other. But I just like, that was like the first time. And but I remember being like, wow, she's really pretty. Like I liked how she had like highlights in her hair, and like she would always wear like these dresses that would have like flowers and like cool stuff on them and whatever. So like I had seen her, but I didn't know who she was. So when when we end up going to the outpatient program, which is still the counseling, when I get there, I'm there for a little bit, and someone comes into the group that I had a conflict of interest with at the house that I did actually get kicked out of the rehab, but they kept me because I got very lucky. I have a whole video on it. If you look for it, you can find it. But like it's literally called Why I Got Kicked Out of Rehab. So he comes into the group. I'm like, yo, I can't have this fool in my group, like, and talk about like my feelings and shit. So they put me in another group. They put me in another group, and it's a group where, I knew a couple other people, but also Rosemary was in it. And so I was like, oh, her, like, cool, I was just noticed her, and we're doing our session, and it gets to her, and she like talks about like an app she has on her phone of like, she's like, oh, I just stay at home and watch this thing, and like I never have a lot of apps on my phone, but the one that she was talking about, I was pretty sure I had that on my phone. So after the class, I like showed her my phone. I was like, "Is this the app you're talking about?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh shit, I watch that all the time. It's like the only app that I have." It was the investigation discovery app for like true crime type shit. So that was like the first time we like talked or whatever. But I would find out later that she definitely like had somewhat of an eye on me, you could say. So like that was like our first interaction. Then something happened where she asked one of her friends to talk to me about giving her rides to group because she had broke her ankle at the place she was at before she came to where she was at across the street from me. So, you know, we like I said, like I had my car and there was like someone in my house that had the same class as me, same time, another person who did at a different house like one block over. So I would have my car full of clients and I would just park around the corner and everybody else would be like, "Oh my god, I can't ride with a client." Like everyone was all scared. I wasn't scared. So I start giving her rides. So that right there, like that was like strategically done for her to like get my number. Like I found that out later that was a whole like ploy to like get my number. So then we start texting, of course, or like flirting and stuff. So like that, like, you know, we had already like talked and whatever, and we start hanging out. So, I know the area well. She doesn't. She was always lost. I always made fun of her for it. She just like was always lost. And so I would like, I had my car and I would go drive to like the Redondo Beach Pier, the cliffs at PV. Like I would go to like the lighthouse. Like I would just go to like places that I know of in the South Bay that I think are cool. So, I would just take her and show her stuff. And I thought that was cool getting to show her the Fun Factory and like all these places that like meant a lot to me like as like a kid and even still to this day means something. So, we started hanging out a lot. Then her program finishes before mine. She leaves and she goes to stay at her dad's house in like a different part of LA. Not very far, but not across the street from where I was. So she goes and stays there. And when she's staying there, I'm sneaking out of my sober living every night. I'm sneaking out. And I'm like going there, and she would cook me dinner, and we'd watch movies. And I would spend the night, and then I'd wake up in the morning, and then I'd take an Uber back. And it all worked out except for the very last time I did it. Somebody like checked my bed or something, and I would like straight up like Alcatraz style of it. Like I would like take my dirty laundry and I would try to make like the shape of like a body and put like a pillow and like my hat on top of it and stuff. Um, but yeah, one time they caught me. They made me take a drug test. I was like, I don't care. Like that's not why I was gone. Took the test. Nothing happened. So I would go over there. Her dad would work the night shift. I would stay over there, and then I would leave in the morning before he would come back. Somehow we never crossed paths, which was lucky because that fool would have beat my ass, like for sure. Just like not somebody that I would have wanted to cross paths with like that, you know. So like that was cool. Like I didn't really mind going over there and stuff. Like it wasn't close or like super convenient, but it was like, you know, it was whatever. So that happens for a while, and like when we're done with the programs, like the turning not turning point, but something that I can still remember is we would hang out, and there was a time that the Uber was picking me up at this shopping center across from her house. And I was telling her, like, the Uber's about to be here. You can start walking, like, that way to your house. And she's like, oh, I'll just wait for the Uber to get you. And I just thought that was weird. Then she said she had to use the bathroom and she was going to go in CVS, and that, like, it was like, bye. Like, I'm going to go in CVS. The Uber's going to get you. I was like, okay. And it just felt weird. So she went in CVS. When she went in CVS, I waited like a minute, and then I went inside CVS. And I went to the bathroom, and I go to the bathroom, and it's unlocked, and I open it, she's not in there. And then I go and like look for her, and then I see her, and I see her like put something in an aisle, and she like grabs something else real quick. And she's walking, and she's like, yeah, I was just buying this chocolate. And like I was like, oh, okay. So like, you know, I knew something was going on. I stay in line with her. She buys it. Then I get in my Uber, and, you know, I'm like, all right, later. And she like starts to walk, and my Uber just so happened to do like a U-turn kind of thing in the parking lot, and when he does, it just perfectly drives by, and I can see that she's like hiding behind a pillar that's like outside of like pavilions and like Vaughn's and like those kinds of places. They have that outside of the CVS, so she's literally hiding like behind a pillar for my Uber to leave so she can go back in there and get a bottle. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Like she admitted it to me later on, like way, way later on, that like I told her, I was like, I knew exactly what you were doing that day, you know? So right then I was like, all right, this isn't good. Like I don't have control over this, obviously, you know? So that was like the first indication that I got. And then it just progressed like over time through that. And like, you know, like she would try to hide it, and then I'd call her out on it, and like I got so good with it, like I could hear her when we were on the phone. I could hear her open up a drawer, and I could hear her unscrew the cap. Like I could hear all that through the phone, just like I can hear like when someone flicks a lighter. Like it's just like I knew the sound. I could hear this the bottle opening and all that stuff. So, and she'd be like, oh, hold on real quick, and like I could just tell, like I could see it in my head. So like it definitely got worse when she moved up north. So like when she moved up there, it became much more of a like, actually not at first. At first it was still like once in a while whatever, and like, but it did get to the point where I would tell her like, hey, I'm not gonna come up there if you're just gonna be like drinking the whole time. Like, I'm not like with that. And she'd be like, no, I'm not going to. I swear I'm not. Just come. And I'd be like, all right. And then I'd come, and then she would have like a bottle like this, and I would have like a Gatorade or something, and I'd be like, can I get a sip of your drink? And she'd be like, why? You have your own drink. And I would be like, yeah, I know, but I want to drink like a sip of yours. Like yours looks good. And she'd be like, well, I don't want to give you. You have your own drink. And then I would like literally like she would be trying to like keep it away from me. And by the time I'd get it and I'd open it and I'd smell it, and it would just be like straight vodka. And like I would be like, of course. You know, and then of course she would like turn it into a thing about me somehow. I would be like the bad guy in that situation somehow. So that ended up becoming more and more and more of a thing, and you know, like she would just like try to use it against me. Like we'd be on FaceTiming, and I'd be hitting my vape, and then she'd be like you do that so I can do this. And I would tell her, like, I would be like, my vape isn't gonna put me in the hospital. Like, there's a difference, you know? Like, and I wasn't trying to be a dick about it or anything. Like, I was just being real. And, like, you know, it didn't, like, it's not like that equaled out for, like, that to happen, you know? But in her mind, I think that was how she justified it. So, like, it turns into a thing where, like, all of a sudden there are like days that I don't hear from her, and then I find out that she's in the hospital. And then a specific time that I can remember, she FaceTimed me and she's like, "Oh my god. Oh my god. They're killing him." I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "They're stabbing him in the throat. He's bleeding everywhere. It's happening right across the street from my house." I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "I'm going to turn the camera around so you could see." I was like, "Okay." She turns the camera around and she's filming out her window. Nothing. There's nothing there. It's just like her person across the street. Like, it's not even a person. It's just the house across the street with like a chain link fence. And I'm telling her, she's like, "I'm going to call 911." I was like, "Don't call 911. Like, don't. Like, you're having some kind of episode, psychosis, I don't know, but like, they're going to take you to, like, you know, they're going to take you to like the mental hospital if you call and like start talking like that." And, you know, she did call, and thankfully the person was able to use their judgment to realize that she was like, you know, not in her right mind. But she ends up going to the hospital, and like, she would spend stints in the hospital where she would be in the bed for so long that before she would get discharged, she would literally would have to learn how to like walk again because her muscles were so weak from being in bed for like 7, 10, 14 days or whatever. And like, the last year of her life, she was in the hospital closer to 10 times than 5. I'll just put it that way. Closer to 10 than 5. I lost count. I tried keeping count at one point, but I lost count. So, she's like spending these like stints in the hospital. She's calling me from the hospital. She's getting mad at me because I'm not calling around to every hospital trying to find her. Um, guess that was me being a shitty boyfriend. And I'm trying to explain to her, I'm like, "Yo, like, every single time that they discharged her, she would have spent at least like a week at the hospital where they're giving her nutrients. She's eating. She's like, you know, her system is like rebooting." So I would always tell her, like, "Yo, like, this is your best chance to, like, you know, start fresh. Like, you've been like clean, and like you're like your head is like clear and everything, you know, like this is the a really good chance." And she would go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," and like she would agree with me and everything. But by the end of that day, like, it was more likely than not that she like stopped at the liquor store like on her way back home from the hospital or something like that. Like, it was just, she'd get back from the hospital and she would be drinking before I could, you know, say the alphabet. So, and like, I don't mean to judge, like, everybody has their demons, you know, like, she was dealing with some very, very old demons that, like, I know about, and I'm not going to get into that, but we all do, you know. I was a heroin addict. Like, I'm not anybody to judge anybody, okay? So, it was just unfortunate because I would tell her, like, you know, like, I care about you. I can't watch you do this to yourself. Like, I'm trying to explain to you what will happen. And at the time, I was going to a DUI class because I got a DUI uh, before I went to rehab. So I'm like going to this class, and we're watching intervention, we're watching other stuff that has to do with alcohol and what it does to the body and all that. And I'm telling her this stuff, and, you know, like, it was just like, no matter how many examples, and like, you know, my family, like, I've lost so many people in my family to liver cirrhosis and stuff, like, so trust, like, I'm not in any position to judge anything, even just in my own bloodline. It's filled with drug addicts and alcoholics. It is what it is. So I never was judging or pointing the finger, but I would just tell her like, you're killing yourself slowly, and like I can't do this. Like, it's killing me watching you do this to yourself. It's killing me. Like, I don't know what to do. I've like tried and said everything I can, and it's like you can't force somebody in those situations. They have to want it themselves. Like, just like rehab and all that stuff, like I went to rehab the first time and it was just so I could look good for everybody else, and it didn't mean anything to me. And like the second time I went, I was actually trying because I knew like if I keep doing this I'm going to die. That was different. But the first time I did it, it was all for appearances. It was all, okay, this will get them off my back, blah 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 blah. So like that definitely, like, you have to want it. And someone I went to rehab with said like, hey, sometimes people need to go back out there and they need to like hit the gutter and realize that, like, maybe they haven't like gotten to that rock bottom spot yet, and they need to go back out just so they can come back in and be willing to do whatever. So I thought that was a cool way to put it. But it just like it ended up happening more and more. Like, it turned into a common thing. I wouldn't hear from her for a couple of days. I'd find out she was in the hospital. Wouldn't hear, then some time would go by, whatever, and then the same thing. And like it just kept happening, kept happening, kept happening. And it just got to the point, like there was times where, like, I'm not trying to bash her or anything, but like it would get to the point like she like wouldn't know like my middle name or like my birthday, like things that were very, very like talked about, prevalent, obvious, like stuff like that. So we just kind of like drifted further apart, like towards the end. Like we definitely weren't as close as we were at one point. We were very, very, very close. But we kind of started drifting apart and just not talking as much, not FaceTiming or sending little things or whatever. It was just kind of like, she did her thing, I did my thing. But we would still talk every now and then. Like, it wasn't like nothing. We would just talk. It was just different. It wasn't the same as it used to be. So then the day comes that it was December 28th of 2023. I remember that specifically. And my phone rings and I get it. And it's a message from her daughter that she lived with. And her daughter messaged me on Facebook and she said, hey, just wanted to let you know that my mom passed away. And I was just like I hate to say like that I like I don't want to say that I saw it coming, but like I wasn't super super surprised with just the way that things had been going. Like, of course, like I like didn't even know what to like say, think, or feel, even though I've lost people throughout my entire life. Like, but someone that I spent a very like close, like a good amount of time with and a close amount of time with, like that, like I've only had one other girlfriend in my entire life, and that was in 2010. you know so I took a 10-year break before getting another one for it to end like this. And my first relationship ended fucking traumatically as well, so I'm two for two on, you know I don't know what a regular relationship's supposed to be like, but maybe someday I'll get the chance. So like when I get that news, I'm just kind of like just thinking, and I was sad for sure. Like, she was a good person. Like, I knew her, like, maybe she didn't know how to express it or show it all the time or whatever, but like deep down, like she was a good person. She had a good heart. She liked to help people, and she liked animals. And I enjoyed being able to like make her laugh. And you know, like it was for the times that were like, you know, you have to have the good times for the bad times to make the good times feel as good as they can. I don't know, it's hard for me. I probably said it wrong, but you understand what I'm saying. So, you know, I got that message, and like it definitely affected me, and I still pray for her all the time. Like her and her entire family. And I'm not religious or anything, and this isn't like the religious corner or anything, but I just saying, like, I just think about, like, because her family was very cool, or her mom's side. Her dad's I don't really know, but her mom's and everyone, they treated me like family, you know, and like that builds like a certain bond. So I definitely have like thought about them a lot, and just like I just hope that they're doing well. And you know, I've tried reaching out a couple times and just, you know, spoken my piece and whatever, and you know, said what I said, and it was received well. So, you know, not a whole lot more I can do than that. So, anyways, I'm sorry for, you know, this video being a lot different than my normal videos, but I just feel like it's important to remember her life. And her birthday was August 15th. So that's another day that I remember. And, you know, I'm a big believer in the gone but never forgotten term. So I like to keep people's memories alive by talking about them. And, you know, I love that at like you know, celebrations of life where people go around and they like talk about like a good memory they have of someone, you know. So I don't know, maybe that's an Irish thing, maybe more people do it, I don't know, but either way, I just feel like, you know, it's unfortunate that she's gone. And you know, I definitely do miss her. And it's, you know, it's very unfortunate, but I know that she would want me to be happy, and she would want everybody to be happy, and she would want every person, animal, or whatever to be living their best life. And I know that, and that's all that I can do when it comes to my friends and close people that I've lost. Is I know sitting around and throwing a pity party, if they could see me, they would bitch slap me, and I wouldn't blame them. So it's like you got to live your life like almost like for them, you know, do the things that they would want to do, that they would want to see you do, and to just try to be happy. So that's that's the story of, unfortunately, how Rosemary Dominguez passed away on December 28th, 2023. I didn't ask too many like questions when it came down to it, but I just have to assume that her body shut down from the alcohol, like like, you know, your liver or like something along those lines. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to get all into it, but you know, I just assume that it had something to do with that. So just, you know, everything is okay in moderation, but you know, too much of anything can be dangerous most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. So, anyways, I hope that this video can, you know, help somebody somewhere, or you know, just to spread the awareness that like this kind of stuff does happen. Like I never knew, like I knew, but I just, when people would say, oh, you drink yourself to death, like I just thought that that was something they would say to scare people. But now I see it as a real thing. And like I said, I've lost people in my family to it, but seeing it happen right in front of my eyes definitely made me aware of it. So I just thought I could spread the awareness, and I could also celebrate Rosemary's life at the same time. So hopefully I was able to convey that, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. So please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.